And that's, as humans, we judge aesthetically. I understand that. But having these conversations and getting a conversation with Screen Ireland, when I get face to face with them and they find out that you can actually hold a conversation, it breaks down those prejudgmental, stereotypes that they may have. So,
in the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
Welcome to the show, everybody. We have Baz Black here, who's an actor, writer, and filmmaker, coming to our show this week. So, Baz, look at all those DVDs behind you. That's amazing. So we know you're a filmmaker, and you must be inspired by all those videos you're watching there. Tell us a little bit about why have you got such a big collection of DVDs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm old school as regards DVDs and CDs. I like the physical, actually being able to read the back cover and stuff. And I've just always been fascinated with movies ever since I was a young kid. It was like my escapism all the time. And yeah, the collection just kept growing and growing. These days with digital, I finally had to kind of give in, and there's so much available digital wise, but it is great when you can pull out an obscure DVD that isn't on any of the digital platforms, and it's just bragging rights, showing off to your mates.
George, we were old school. When I was old school, it was super 8mm film that we used to slice and cut up and stick together with sellotape.
That is old school.
That's old school.
No. Sorry. I'm not letting either of you away with this one. I know, and you used to go down to Dandelion. No, you're probably too young for that Dandelion Market. There, you were selling those, you were cloning those, you were printing those. That was your pocket money. You know it, I know it. And actually, there's probably 60 of every version behind you there, and it's photocopied. I don't believe that you bought those for a second.
See, Garvin knows so much, he goes and photocopies.
Actually, I hang out with too many. What's really happening there is I'm reflecting, because I actually grew up in the 80s. And when those things came out first, maybe in the 90s, I actually knew those people that did that. I was going, how have they got all this money? Where did it come from? And it turns out they were pirates. They might have they could have had parrots on their bloody shoulder. But you had flasher jackets you open up, and there'd be about 60 of them hanging out, and you get pick whichever one you want. And it wasn't even in the movies yet. So we'll let you away with that. I know, we all know. You want to be Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, well, I do look dodgy, and you're probably right, And it was videos before this. I had an equally big video collection before that, but yeah, as you know, and they were all given away to charity shops, and now videos are kind of making a comeback. So yeah, always hang on to.
Yeah, well, why is that? I mean, the old videos with the kind of crunched up sort of plastic and sort of the wobbly scope that used to then happen, and all the snow that you used to see through. Were they just the copies that we were watching, or
Yeah, probably.
What's that?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go straight for juggler anyway, and it's not what you think. It's going full. Like, we found you, or we found each other on Facebook or somewhere like that. Us two old men are out there going, what's this all about? What's these filmmakers? Who are they? And actually, one thing I like that I think you were in it could be Indiegogo space or some start, raising a couple of quid. You're asking for a couple of quid. I was going, 20 grand's too little to do anything. Then I saw a sticker on the end that I go, no, this 20 is for 150, 160. So you're on a journey of raising finance in the toughest market in history. Is this going to be your breakout feature, or is it like you're in control of the seat? You got to raise a chunk of change.
Yeah.
To go have this. Now, one last question before it's not a musical. What I read and what I remember is a mix of Commitments meets Trainspotting, probably Pulp Fiction thrown in. It's the soundtrack, but it's not a musical.
No.
But it's about a band.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's the film that I've been building up to. So with my short films and everything I've done, and it is very loosely based on punk bands that I drummed with over the years. And one in particular, and the singer of that band and the guitarist of that band are playing themselves in the movie. So yeah, I've been building for that. With the whole Indiegogo fundraising thing, to be honest with you, I was quite reluctant to go down that road. And that's just part of our funding plan to kind of kick us over the edge. We're going through the whole applications, for actual proper funding, and we have private investors on board. But as you know yourself, it's so difficult to get the funds to do it the way that you want to do it. So with the Indiegogo, that's kind of like our safety net to keep pushing us along. But to be honest with you, I was quite hesitant and embarrassed to do it, because asking strangers for money for your dream, I always find is a little bit of a...
I love that.
Yeah.
He's very shy and retiring and doesn't want... No, we had a couple of conversations with a couple of other guests. You want to get the content, you want to create it, you want to wrap it, and you want to give them joy. So actually, this is the pay it forward, backward type journey. If they don't give you the couple of pence in advance, you don't get the chance to give them the film that they will get the joy from. And actually, a couple of other people who spoke to, an awful lot more of the joy is coming from paying it forward these days and help. It's not, you're not begging. It's not the begging bowl. It's not give me charity. It's actually, you want to provide a service. You want to give an opportunity to the other people you're working with, and you want to launch them into something, that's enjoyable for others. So it's not a begging bowl, but you're going to create something enjoyable for someone else.
I got over myself, and I was just like, no,
Took about 3.5 seconds, I reckon. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, if that's the route we have to go down, we go down. But and we've kind of just been thinking outside the box. I've always come from the outside. I've always been an outsider. So there's been amazing, like St. Vincent de Paul charity has come on board to sponsor all the costumes for the film.
Hold on a second. Wow. You're not a charity, but a charity has actually come on board.
Come on board.
That's a bit of a contradiction there.
That's actually brilliant. That's
another charity has come on board, and fundraising and all the businesses. And I've just basically been, calling in all my connections that I've built up over the years to make it happen. So anything we can do to get us across.
Oh, George, this is terrible now, because I'm getting this vision of, I have you on tape. I'm calling it in. If you don't pay me, I've got a DVD here of something you don't. The porn collection you mentioned off to the left there, those cameras, those webcams, you've enough
he didn't
blackmail
mention
material.
That was off camera.
The 20 quid is in the post, Baz. Honestly, it's on the way.
Yeah, well, whatever makes it happen.
It's funny because I mean, I'm the story you're sort of telling, as a musician. I remember my son a few years back was in a band called Osmium around the Newry area, and had played all over Northern Ireland. Did about 150. They were the heaviest metal. Right. Osmium. That's unbelievable. But they did about 150 gigs going all over the place, and they're home to sort of take off, and they went to college. But it was just amazing to see that kind of side of what skills they built up, and how they then produced their own videos, and how the whole thing sort of came together. They understood marketing, they understood sales, they understand the whole process of making sure that you get to your market. So who's your market for this particular film that you're actually planning?
Yeah, so I mean, what was really important to me was you don't need to, like, it's based on a punk band, but you don't need to like punk music to like the film. It's a character-based study, So, like, I mean, our demographic would be from 24 to like 46 years of age. That's kind of, you don't want to pigeonhole it too much, but that's our demographic.
Hold on a second, Baz. I was a punk. And I'm 55. Exactly. Yeah. I'm in trouble. I can't watch this. I can't get into the cinema.
Yeah.
You ruled out.
They ruled me out. I was the original bloody punk, or got. I was only half a punk.
Half a punk. Yeah, so like it was important. So even the soundtrack and the music, we're not going too hardcore with it. Still keeping it punk, but you don't want to ostracize your global market of it as well. And it is a character-based study. It's all about retribution, and basically it visits the band 10 years after they split up, and it's visiting the lives of the band. Where are they now without the band? What's happened to them? And basically they're all fucked. And it's about, reforming the band and getting their lives together, So, yeah.
No, this is a precursor of, if you get into film, you know what the future is. You're either super global star or you're back doing the barista. You're going there. There's no, so you better get those barista skills up and running there. Now, I know you have an alternate career, but not even going to mention the bloody war there, because it's off the table. But no, I like the fact you're saying, no, what's interesting, there was an article, I didn't read the article, I only read the headlines. It's out the last couple of days, and it's talking about actor becoming writer. Because effectively they had to become writer to write their own script to get themselves to have the prime position of actor in it. So are you literally writing yourself into the damn thing? Is this actually an autobiography?
100%. And I mean, the only reason I started writing scripts was for that exact reason you said. Because of my image as an actor, I do get typecast and pigeonholed, and I love it. I love playing those roles, the gangster, the drug dealer. That's fine. but there is more to me as a person, as an actor. So I started writing myself in roles that displayed me in a vulnerable nature, or different roles that I wanted to do. And sometimes you need to show casting directors, you know, they just can't picture it. And it worked. When they saw it, they were like, we never would have seen you in this kind of vulnerable role. And it opened up doors. So with the feature film, like I am a drummer and I do play in punk bands, and I wrote myself into the movie. You know, and I love it.
It's the perfect DIY. If you're not, you got to do it for yourself, because no one else. That's what we said a number of years back. We're not going to ask permission. We're not going to ask for a job. The only way to do this in this industry is to create your own journey. And then, because you know, you might get them on the way and other people might see you and it makes you more visible, but you can't be waiting for someone else, or you'll be there till doomsday. Now, I can see Baz Black, a.k.a. Young Gandhi. Is that what you're saying? You can play any role at all?
Yeah, I'm a chameleon. No, not any role, but I've been cast. I'm playing a priest in a feature film next year. So, you know, go figure.
JC, I don't want to see that priest anytime soon.
The world is opening up. But just on that point, myself and my wife had a conversation recently, and she's an artist and she does production, but she's predominantly an artist. And we were having a conversation about, you know, how frustrating it is as an actor when you're not getting the jobs, you know. And then my wife was like, oh, well, you know, most actors, they want to be famous, or, you know, they want to do it for that reason. And I'm like, no, it's kind of one of the only arts where we need permission to do what we love. We need somebody to give us that permission to do the job that we love. Whereas an artist, you know, they can sit home, they can do a painting, they produce something and they can put it out to the world. There's no point in an actor walking around their house acting when nobody.
Stop. No, Baz, honestly, I would agree with you till about 5 years ago, before this phenomenon of what's out there in terms of YouTube. And, you know, at home, you know, you can act. You can capture 3 minutes and 1 minute of something, and you can show, you can profile. The permission you can't get is, you know, the permission to be in someone else's budget, to permission to be in, you know, Marvel. You know, you have to get permission for that. But you can certainly, as you're currently doing, you're going, you don't need permission. That's just how much budget. You still are an actor. You're actor as artist. That's what you're saying. And you can create and act your way into a moment that captures attention, and you have all the tools to do that.
I think it takes a bit of time, though, to get to that point where you realize that, because the way the system works, like you've been looking for jobs as an actor, I've worked as an editor and worked as a filmmaker, and it's almost as though, like someone told me earlier on in my career, oh, you don't need to ask to get up to a certain position, but if you're going through as an editor, you have to be given, you know, it's almost as though you have to do an apprenticeship and work your way through the whole thing and given permission to take up the next role. Even though you may be better than other people, if you're not recognized and haven't got awards, they still don't want to know you at times. So there is an interesting sort of area that there's parallels to what you're talking about with the acting, that eventually you have to get to the point where you say, I don't need permission to have this particular job title. For example, I've been producing music. Garvin doesn't know this. I'm actually writing the score for my feature.
You're double jobbing. You're taking my. Yeah. Thank you.
No. Actually, that's you see, that's the problem. When you start thinking about double jobbing, that's where you start to sort of restrict the creativity that actually comes in. Because what happens is that if you're getting frustrated that you can't get doing the things that you feel that's inside you, that voice that keeps shouting out to be heard, you end up having to express that in other forms. And so and if you're an artist, I don't think you're restricted to just a visual. It's the visual and auditory and in many cases acting.
Yeah.
I'm not an actor, but in most things I'm doing at the moment, even that we're doing here now, I'm acting. No, I'm acting. And I was a lecturer for a period of times, and you suddenly found that you had to perform as though you're on stage. I'm now actually, you talked about becoming a priest in a role that you're playing. I'm about to be in the role of a deacon, actually as a deacon. Right. And again, you're in front of all these people and you have to build up your confidence and actually perform for them. So it is about building up that kind of performance side of things, which I think is really good. Now, I'm actually quite interested about the punk side of things because I've been reading a lot of stuff. I'm going to bring Garvin back in a second to here. We've been watching lots of Philip K. Dick stories, and the cyberpunk ideas come from the 1980s that he was doing with another writer. I can't remember the other writer's name, but I'm just a Philip K. Dick fan. And really the premises of most of his stories are similar to your what you've just now said is the premise for your film. And I'm just wondering, are you influenced by the same kind of cartoon type, illustration type work? Would the film be very stylized because of your background?
Yeah, definitely stylized to the point, where we want to get a nostalgia feel to the punk, even though, it starts in the 90s, and that's when, and the tagline is, they were never famous, they were notorious, because we, as a band, that band that I was in, Mongo Horn, we were absolutely notorious, and we sold out venues all over the place. But it wasn't necessarily for the music, it was because the show we put on, in particular, the front man was absolutely crazy, So yeah, I definitely want to capture the nostalgia feel, and we're through the use of filters, and we're actually using a lot of vintage lenses on it as well. To get that.
Thanks, St. Vincent de Paul there again now for that.
Yeah. A few scratches on them, but they'll do.
You want to use things like this, the old sort of
lovely,
zoom
yeah.
the old film camera lenses. That's what you need to be using.
Yeah. But yeah, between costume design, set design, and the look and the feel of it, and the influences, come from broad spectrums of stuff, even references to films like, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, that kind of, the speed of the edit, and, there's loads of references. Shane Meadows would obviously be a massive influence there with This Is England and his kind of stylized version of that. But, you never want to be a carbon copy of anything. You just need to take your influences into it. And just on the sci-fi steampunk, I love that side of things. I'm in a short film next year, and that's along those terms and those vibes as well. So again, even if it doesn't necessarily suit the tone of our film, we'll definitely be taking the references and the influences from it as well.
Well, have you been watching? No, I can't remember the first part of it, but something Bebop. There's a thing on Netflix.
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop. Oh, you have to watch that. It's absolutely brilliant. I just watched the first 2 episodes of it over the last couple of nights, and it's that same cyberpunk kind of cowboy space type thing, but it's very much Philip K. Dick. The other thing is Kill Bill. That must have influenced the way it's been shot, or Sin City, those kind of movies. There, you can see that kind of comic strip sort of influence that's going on in that.
I gotta pull it away from here and bring it back to Business 101. Feck you both.
No, go sci-fi. Go sci-fi. Go sci-fi.
Well, it will be.
Sci-fi. We want the UFOs going in there.
The one thing here which is interesting is, you touched on it. You are an actor, and you're writing your story so you can be in it. But the thing is, to be that, you became business entrepreneur in order to facilitate that. So what you've done is, and what we like, is you have to you talked a little bit of language of, there's investors, there's strategic partners. There's people vested in this. We're going on a journey, and we're going to produce the product, and people are going to see it and consume it. There's going to be bums on seats by the end of it. And all of that journey is marketing, business development, or that's business. That's entrepreneurship. It has costs and profits, and that's accountancy language. And there's no escaping. You've given yourself permission to go on the journey of being business entrepreneur and raise that finance. And you've touched on Indiegogo or Kickstarter as being an element of a plan, which is brilliant. It's only one part of. I love the next sentence, which was actually, there's private investors. Well, that's even better, because that was a rare breed. We've heard from the other people we've introduced to go, how the hell to attract investment? They got to believe in you. They got to give you their hard-earned money after tax, and they might get it back, or it might be dressed up as charity indirectly. Because sometimes an awful lot of these investors go, I don't really expect it back. But some want it back, some want to empower you. So how the people are around you at the moment, do you think they're in the realm of they're going on a journey with what they want to empower you, or do they really expect it back?
Well, our main investor expects it back. Businessman 101. He's not really interested in, the bigger goal of the filmmaking and all. He's a businessman, he's an entrepreneur. And so you have to understand his stead point, but we also need to make him understand that there is 100% risk that he's not going to make his money back. It's a gamble. It's a risk. There's no given. We will do everything in our power to get him his money back, because that's our number one mission and goal. But so on that side of things, with the investors, very much business-like. And as you said, then there's other champions that are just want you to, pursue your dream and get the movie out there. I've owned many, many businesses over the years. So, the business acumen side of things, I'm very aware of. My head isn't in the clouds and that side of things. And without sounding like an absolute egotistical twat, over the years, I've built myself.
That's my market. You can't have that. I'm number one there.
There's only one space for that. I've built myself up as a brand. So no matter what I do, I spin one thing off the other. So whether it's my business to do, like with my directing, my music, writing books or whatever, and I've kind of built my name up to a point of I can get a lot of businesses and those kind of people behind me because they know me for one thing or for another, And I mean, the short films are proof of concept, in my opinion. You have to go through that journey, make your short films, make them do well, win the awards. There's your proof of concept. And then I kind of trying to tie everything in with the brand to make sure that people are going to champion you and get behind you. So I'm lucky in that regard, but I've worked hard to get to that point in that regard,
I'm going to pull you up, Baz, and slap you on the wrist, right? Now, maybe I read it wrong because I didn't read much. I told you before, I gave you a little message. We don't do any research. Don't look into you. Don't care, right? But we don't care enough. Well, he probably does, but I don't. But on the pitch from again, I don't know what's Indiegogo, it mentioned the figure, the 150 grand.
Yeah.
Is that the budget?
It's, look,
I want it's a trick question. It is right. Well, so is the what? Because you've just pitched a figure. Yeah. Now any investor would give you the two fingers because you've actually took away a tax break.
Yeah. Well, 1.1 million is our
right. Now we are talking.
Right. The Indiegogo thing, we put that figure up, but you keep your cards close to your chest, even though I've just given it away. That's our dream budget. That's what we know that we are pushing for. That's I have like amazing DP lined up, and we need that kind of money to get to where we need to be.
Exactly.
So
no, that's great because that actually makes me more confident. Because the real catch there was if you were trying to attract an investor, and you know yourself, 160. Yeah. Basically, I can spend 80 grand, bring it to a 240, section 481, and get a refund of 80 grand and be a net 160. So you effectively would make no sense to be getting a 160 budget when you can have 80 grand for free at 240.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's 100%. Yeah. And what happened was I got selected into the Dublin screenwriters for Dublin Crust, and I got to pitch to 5 of the big production companies. 3 of them came back. So we're in very close talks with one of those, and that's the figure that we're going for with that. So
no, I like that. Now you got us impressed again. You're back. You're okay.
Back on board.
No, so again, the 1.1 I like. Now, what's funny is I'm doing up a couple of budgets for a couple of movies myself at the moment. We're going because I'm an accountant. I can't help. I can't escape. I can't get away from it. And that's the language we were talking to a few other of our guests. Some of them brought forward it's 250, it's 350, but when we ran the maths, it came to be nearly twice it. And that was with nothing special, no costume drama, no SFX, no named anybody or anything. There was just a minimum value of giving someone the day rate of turning up and being there to capture something. And so the great thing you said about the million mark is there's got to be a little bit of A-lister in there. Maybe there is. There's a bit of special effects. There's a couple of crowd scenes in the band, no doubt. But you're now at a figure that, you've got to talk to your ROI of a many million customers to get it back.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And that's, to be honest, that's the part that does scare me is the distribution side. I'm fairly confident I've built up, I know what I need to do to get the film made. And, even the marketing side and that is fine and all that. But as you said, it's the distribution is the deal breaker. I mean, I've fired out, just emails off to the likes of Wildcard Distribution and just to plant the seeds and because they're the kind of the big dogs that you need behind you. There's no point in making the movie for it doesn't matter how much it is, doesn't matter how good it is if nobody's going to see the fucking thing,
That's it.
So that is the bit, and I've been working on that and been working hard on that, and I have a meeting today with Screen Ireland and even the likes of the Drogheda Arts Centre who have distributed their own stuff, and I'm building up that network that I need to learn because I'm very open to admitting where I'm kind of a bit out of my element, and that's where I fall short.
Now, what's interesting is we're in a little time warp now because you're off to a meeting this afternoon. Now, when this is edited and goes out, that'll be the past.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry, okay? So it's like saying, in my language, and maybe in George's language, you're off to see the wizard, right? What are you going to ask him for behind the curtain now, like this afternoon? What's the questions coming from you for them, other than give me £1 million? Thanks.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have like 5 different applications in there, so they're all for different things. So it'll be kind of a broad conversation, but you know yourself, getting a face to face, as opposed to just emails and a blank face, and you know, getting your vision across and your personality as well is key, definitely. But yeah, 100% we'll be talking about the distribution stage. What can they do to help us out, and try and encompass all the applications that we have to try and get them on board, because as you know, like coming from outsiders, and it's very, very difficult. So just getting that meeting was kind of a little win for us,
Well, that's excellent.
And have you a slate of films that you're planning on doing? So you've got something else that's going on in the background as well as that one? Yeah,
so after this one, our producer and AD, Nicole, she's actually written a script, and that's in the horror realm, which, as you know, is
one of our favorite areas.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So
the horror of budget, the horror of distribution. Yeah, I love it. The horror of marketing.
All horror. Yeah. So that's the next one. That's the next feature then that we'll be working on. So yeah, at the moment, I mean, the sole focus is all this. It's, as you know, it's a full-time job, pre-production, getting everything sorted. We're filming on the 7th of March, we start. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of everything.
Well, that's brilliant. I mean, you're starting. No, I don't know, because I don't understand this industry at all. As I said, I keep on saying I'm a virgin, I'm a newbie. But you're going, have you got the $1 million? Are you going to pre-production? You're going to do a pre 30 grand, 50 grand worth of something on the 7th of March? Are you just going to assume when you get there that the money will be there?
Yeah, I mean, that's putting it out there. But like we definitely have enough money to get us to there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we're pushing for everything else aside from that. And January is, a lot of the deadlines will be coming in January, so we'll definitely have a better idea of what we can do. And I have a lot of the people on retainers, if you want to use a word, that are super, super interested. But to get those people, we need that budget. I do have then another B list.
I was going to say, can we fire that lot? Right, because you're going, by the sounds of it, you're going ahead anyway. So you have the 1.1 and the 100. You're saying we're doing this. Actually, one can be the pitch for the other and the bigger budget at a later date, which is grand. But you're saying this film is getting made, and by hook or by crook, it's happening. Yeah. And actually, I think George, we said it. The market we're in ourselves personally is we're sub 1 million, because as soon as you start going beyond that, it becomes a 10 million customer, 20 million customer, Netflix to get it back. It's a higher risk, higher reward. If you mess up once, you don't get the next investment. So we're actually maybe around the 500,000, 3/4 million mark going. That's where our game is of sub 1 million indie production, that you can raise the finance possibly, less risk involved, get the tax break, and hopefully get it back. But there's not a named anything in there. Yeah. What it is the people, it's a testimonial platform of people trying to aspire and show their work and their wares and reach the next level. And as soon as anyone does, be an actor or breakout producer, then you can't afford it, because they're gone to the next level unless they give back. So you're at that 1 million curve of professional business. Actually, if you say the word 1 million, you nearly need to be 2, because you got to put in the ABCs. But if you're sub 1, you got to put it all back and get rid of everybody and go cameo.
Yeah, that's it. And we've 2 named actors, and like you said, it's in that situation. I mean, we have Joe Rooney and we have Rose Henderson. They're already signed up, confirmed, and then there's 2 other ones that will, again, they're all in, and it just depends on whether we can meet their budgets, but
we're all in. Ka-ching, ka-ching. No ka-ching, ka-ching. All out.
Yeah.
But I think that's also the reason why you've had to set the date for the 7th for March, because if without that, they wouldn't be able to commit. Otherwise, they say, well, look, we can't just be on the long string all the time.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the way.
As regards, to committing to that date and all that, I'm very proactive in that nature. And when you give yourself a deadline, Because so many people in this industry will just talk and talk and talk, and they'll wait and wait and wait, and they'll wait to see if they get the funding, and they'll wait till this.
Why are you looking at me like that, Baz? Why are you doing?
Just fucking get on with it.
All right, that's it.
That's it.
That's what a fair few people have been saying that to me lately.
Yeah. We've done about 100 and how many now? This is the 106th show or something we've actually done in the last year or so. We just kept on doing and doing. And Garvin keeps telling me, no, George, don't do that. I'm kind of go, well, look, I'm not waiting. I'm just going to get on with this.
Yeah,
you have to knock things out.
I think we're in a very, very similar path to Baz now. Well, not punk era or sort of demigod or what, or
you never know.
Marvel, aka sort of meets Cowboy Bebop. But 2022, I think we're both in the language of shit or get off the potty.
We've actually set March as a target as well.
We've actually set March as a target as well.
In March, we're going to make our first little short as a prototype of what we're actually doing. It's not our first short. It's the first one as me and Garvin doing together,
Brilliant. Yeah. What genre is it in?
I've still got to write it.
Okay.
No, again, it doesn't even matter. It's actually,
it doesn't even matter.
We're saying it's a process, and actually, the thing is, it's
probably sci-fi anyway.
Yeah, it probably will be horror sci-fi. Exactly, with fake old people. Actually, you'll be looking out the window. It's a little bit like what's that War of the Worlds, where you see the dog fall, a bit of the robotic dog falling over. So it's going to be a bit like that.
I had this idea for a little story because I'm actually training to be a counselor as well, just for shit. But there's a guy that comes to this counseling. It turns out that as he goes through the counseling session, it's death who's come to pick him up. So that was amazing.
Oh, I like that. Maybe Death has Alzheimer's and he's just in a hole where he's forgotten.
He's just forgotten that this is the last one. We'll work on that one, but it could be really quite cool.
Now, do you have the world is in a stir at the moment. There's another bloody something coming down the line or not. Does that make a damn difference?
Omicron.
Are you going COVID bubble? It doesn't matter. We're creating the bubble. And in that bubble, there's the bubble boys are going to be in a band.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a factor that you have to take into.
Yep.
What the lockdown did for me, because I'm always so busy with everything, was it made me finish that script, so that was a positive that I took out of it. It's kind of a wait and see. And again, when you're talking about budget in March, if it's full on COVID implications, that's serious money, especially because we quite a big cast, even though a lot of them are day players or whatever, there's a lot of people to negotiate there. And even when you're talking about putting them up in hotels, if they're traveling and stuff like that. So that definitely, I suppose that falls under the contingency plan, doesn't it?
That 10%, 50% contingency. Yeah, I like that now.
Yeah, exactly. So,
again, it's actually there's the accountancy. You're going. It's like you're talking it again. Scenario analysis. I've got scenario 1. This happens. Scenario 2. We're working between the maxes and mins, but it's not. It's just the flavors changing. It's not the core is not changing. It's just. You don't need crowd scenes. You can fill that in afterwards. You can up on the stage green screen, if chuck something else in, you can fill it in a year's time. Can you use
Unreal Engine for that?
Unreal Engine, even better. So it's actually what the language we like talking about before is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. You're going, no, we're going to go 80-20. We won't worry about the 20%. We're going to get 80% of the value and 20% of the time. We're going, then we can, once we've started the process, you're then able to, further package on afterwards. It's you've got the core. So, I mean, I think you've got the story. You've got enough money to get it going.
Yeah.
You don't need to have crowd scenes of thousands.
And that's it. In my opinion, that's indie filmmaking, independent filmmaking. And sometimes, I be on sets and I just see the money wasted, where it's never very logical, to me anyway. And then when you're thinking in the indie realms, as you said, there's so much cheating if you're just clever about it, what you can use. And,
you got to be a guerrilla, mate. That's it. You go guerrilla marketing, guerrilla indie. You go, you turn up with someone else's gig and you just start playing. You go.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking to a sound guy that was working on all the big features for Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And when he started telling the stories of the problems they're having, I'm kind of going, that happens on our sets. It doesn't matter how big you get. The same problems arise that is, and you kind of go, well, if it happens in the same, for the small things, why not just keep on getting on and doing it and just
Yeah.
turn it out and just do it? You know, that's the thing. It's
No, well, interesting, George. You remind me of Siraj now. He's the director of the Indian Film Festival. He was one of our first guests on the Film Business podcast show part. And he was saying he was in the film, I think it's up there in Wicklow there earlier in the year. And he said he had 2 or 3 change outs of these costumes, you know, and he says they never left the wrapper. You're going, they were a couple of grand a piece.
3 of them, yeah.
And you're going 3 change outs. And you're going, that's just him as a bit part. So you can imagine the way there is waste. Now, I like the language of green film and sustainability that's coming down the track as well. So indie film is nearly that way stealth. You're going, you're sustainable.
Well, so
you bring your own lunch.
You just now mentioned it. Sir Vincent de Paul is doing sponsoring you for
I've never seen it like it.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant way of working it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
when the charity thinks you need charity more than they do, it's
yeah, you know you're in a bad position. But yeah, like I was on a massive network show, and there was a full day where no filming happened. The whole cast, crew, extras, they were all down there, and the director couldn't decide between a red background filter and a green background filter, and they kept swapping it out and changing it, swapping it out, and it's like, okay, I understand, but like it's not a Stanley Kubrick thing, you know. This is a TV network, and nothing happened that day because they couldn't.
You could have probably shot it with both filters and got it done in about half an hour. You know.
Yeah. But that's when you have money to play with. But yeah, as you said, guerrilla style indie filmmaking. If you're clever about it and you've been around the block, you know how to get things done.
Are you good? I think that's what's happening now. I mean, so okay, there will be money. You're the millions if you get it coming from somewhere else. But you're starting to become like what I do like, and I'm starting to hear it. I know you're going to be an actor in it, but you're starting to, as you said, you may be a businessman for your own business. But if you start treating this like your own money, and you want to take care of it. You want the investor to get it back. You want to create value with it. You want to be mindful of it. That will come across investors. They don't. Dragon's Den. I mentioned this amount of times. The questions come out of the Dragon's Den's and Shark Tanks is, you're using my money for your wages. No. You're now an investor in that as well as them. You're going the same journey. You're taking the same risk. You might be packaging yourself. You're visible as a component of it, as an actor or a writer, but you're going for them to make money, you've to make money. Definitely. So you're now aligned. Your interests are aligned.
You're treating it as a business, you know. And even like we went and shot the teaser trailer because a visual is worth 1,000 emails, you know. And when the investors and the people that were behind us just saw the visual side of it, they were like, oh, okay, you know, and that's just a proactive thing to show them that we are going to get things done, you know. And even you know, our deck for our pitching, you know, we have a physical version of it, and it's done like an old punk booklet that you would get, you know, at a gig with like replica posters with the investment breakdown.
Oh, there's an E-tab on the back of it and a syringe and
not quite, no. But and then like, you know, there's a QR code then to take them to the link. But it's all these little touches and these proactive things where that's what I was talking about, you know, very much so thinking outside the box and proving to them that you're not just your head in the clouds. You're not just going to take their money and the film might get made or might not get made. You know, you need to show them, especially.
They got to get on the bandwagon or they're going to get left behind. Yeah. They're losing the opportunity. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. So you treat it like any business and you have to prove your worth. And that's what we're trying to do with this, you know. So one way or another, we will get the film made. I just know that, you know, if we get our dream budget exactly the way I want to make it, so there's going to be 2 versions of it.
I'm not interested in your dream budget. You've got your nightmare budget.
Yeah.
Bring me through it.
Bring it through.
That's exactly. That's the one to go for.
I was in an indie film and I filmed 2.5 years ago and I went to the premiere the other night. So it took them 2.5 years and their budget, I won't name the film, but their budget was only 15,000, right? And I was walking in very highly skeptical, 15 grand, you know, how it was going to come out. And it blew me away. And it's going to Irish cinemas, that's the plan or whatever. But the quality, and you can see the amount of meticulous time it took in the edit. What they did in post just elevated it to new lengths and extremes, you know. So I'm not saying, you know, we're going to do it on 15 grand. It was just such a nice reassurance to see the quality that you can get if you're clever about it and people know what they're doing. And even the director was the cinematographer, and he storyboarded it down to an inch of his life. And the actors and crew were getting a bit concerned because sometimes it'd be 1 take, 2 takes, and he'd be like, no, have it, moving on. We're kind of like, is he moving too fast? But he had it just so clear in his head. And then that definitely portrayed when I saw
I
it.
I like that because actually the problem with most people, well, not the problem, this is my understanding without having an understanding or a learning involved, is if nobody has the big picture, everyone that's in the picture doesn't know what the hell's going on. They know their piece, but don't know how it fits. And actually, enough of films got made out there in their opposite order. Actually, we're looking at because I'm a business intelligence expert, I'm actually reordering it based on, the amount of activities in a day in a single location. You can get, it might be that scene 47 to 53 is on the first day. If it's out of context to people, they don't know what the story is until you see it in the cinema afterwards, nearly. But the great thing about what you were talking about is a couple of people in there have the full vision, have the end-to-end understanding, and can do exactly as you said. We have it, put in the box, this magic box. And then I was going to mention a couple of things there a few minutes ago when you mentioned that George would be coming up by going, you can't fix it in post. If it ain't there, you can't fix it in post. You're going, it has to be caught. But if post is on set with you and sees, because it's the editor's mind and director, you're fixing it in post on set as you go.
I get the impression that the editor was probably the director as well, or fairly close, because if he'd actually storyboarded it so well. Because one of the things that I was going to say that a lot of the shoots that we've done, sometimes the first take is right, but the only reason why you're doing a second take is just to make sure that something didn't happen to the first take, that there wasn't, that nobody was aware of. So you wanted a safety. So we just did two takes because of that. But I think also that I've said, well, as an editor, you don't do it in the post, but I'm working on a project that has taken me many years to do. And I'm the editor, so I'm re-editing it, and I'm starting to use new technologies, and that new technologies will actually advance the film to a level, hopefully, that I wanted to see it in the beginning, but wasn't around when I first made the film. But sometimes it does just become a labor of love that you have to just keep on working until you see it through to the end. But if you've got someone that knows exactly what they're trying to shoot from the storyboard and the way they're doing it, then it is going to work out well when they get to the other end. But I do think also that if you communicate to the crew what is happening and keep them in the loop all the way through, then they become your ally to make sure that you can achieve what you want to achieve as the director, because you're bringing them along with the vision. Definitely. And if they don't see that, then that's when, as you say, things can start to if people become unsettled because they think, well, do they really know what they're doing? That's where you kind of go, am I working on something that's going to fall apart? So you need to give your cast and crew that confidence that they are definitely working on something of promise that that will benefit them, maybe not financially at times, but at least in their helping to promote their career later on.
Yeah, and I have the benefit of being like an actor director, and ask any actor they want to work with an actor director, because I understand the actor's thought process. And sometimes, the actor can feel very disconnected from a director if he has his own vision, but he's not, working with the actor and explaining what it is. They're kind of like dance monkey, where they're not bringing them along the journey. So, and then even with my script, whether it's for right or for wrong, and I mean, there was 30 drafts of the script, but I have 100% overwritten the script. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm already thinking about the edit. So, there's certain pieces where, just say the judge, he has quite a big monologue in the courtroom. I know for a fact that full monologue is not making it into the film, but I want to be able to pick the bits and pieces that I want to take from it. And it's something that I learned from my short films is always have more, never have less. When you're struggling to find that footage to fill gaps and everything like that. And then I'm welcoming, I wouldn't say improv, but I would say, and I've talked to my actors about it, how they would naturally say this kind of stuff. Because a film like ours, if it sounds like you are saying a script in this film, it's not working, and that's where Shane Meadows' beauty. He just writes a treatment. He never writes a full script. He just writes a synopsis, and he gives the characters, this is the situation, this is what you want from him. And there'd be like loose dialogue. And it's not, my film's not going to be like that, but that's why his films come across so natural, because they are natural,
So there's an interesting thing, because we've actually got to the point where we say you must have a script. And the reason we're saying that you must have a script is it's a tool to help us define the budget. And so even if you're not going to use that improv, and what I've done in my films, I've actually said, look, it's there as a guide, but it tells me how much that film is going to cost when I break that film down, which is what Garvin's now doing with the whole process, because we're going to try and automate that if we feed a script in, it'll actually pump out some figures and tell us a rough, quick view of what that movie should cost based on what the is in there. Yeah. So we're trying to encourage people to write at least a script, because we can use that as part of the process in development and pre-production.
There is magic maths there at play. Yeah. I mean, you probably know it yourself. Like, as you said, if it doesn't, forget the budget of $1 million. It's like, if you're doing 30 days of production and it was all production money, that's 30 grand a day of, cost. Yeah. So there is figures that are just in play, and then people suddenly get an understanding of what this bunch of people around you standing around is. It's 100 people at 300 quid each, at 30 grand a day. And we need to get 3 minutes out of here, or we're suddenly in trouble to the tune of 30 grand.
Yeah. That's the logistics of it, and even compartmentalizing, the actors, how many days you need them for the scenes, and blocking them into as close together as possible.
That's it.
So logistically, you're not paying for their travel, 8 times during the set.
Yeah, that's it. It's a travel to and from was more costly than actually doing. It was everything around it. It's like, literally, you've just come to turn up for the 2 minutes in question, you can tell them to feck off. But you're saying you're not paying for the minute, you're paying for the who it is, the value they're bringing, the potential audience. That's what they say. I'm worth 10 grand for that line. It's all you got me for was a cameo, but that you're hoping that translates into 100,000 extra customers at a quid, and you get a 10-to-1 return, or you bring some bang for buck. But the system, the process just goes. It's 50. You've got a day. It's time increments. Everything there, from camera crew to everyone ready to go and say go. That is the functional process before ever the art. That it has to be there to package the art.
Yeah.
If that
so if we've just sort of said our method a little bit, which is the script writing, because we're using it as a tool now, whether or not the lines get used and things like that. But have you ever worked on anything similar to what Ken Loach? Because we were looking at possibly there was a Ken Loach project sort of floated in and floated out recently. And one of the things we were kind of thinking, based on what we've heard before, is that the way he does a lot of improv and all that, we were kind of going, how would you take that and budget it? Because there's quite often there's no way of working out the parameters. So have you ever experienced anything like that? And how do you think they budgeted those projects?
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, with my own, the script is there, and as regards improv, it's more just how they would naturally say something, so I wouldn't be letting them off in tangents of just completely improv and stuff like that. I mean, I haven't been on a production that's exactly, Ken Roach's style, but I was on a film called Pulcinella there during the summer, and Danny Patrick, he was the most collaborative, open director that I've ever worked with. Because as an actor, you read a script, you have your own thoughts on it, but you have to be quite reserved and, feel out how open they are, because sometimes people are very precious about it, especially writer directors, they want it said how it needs to be said. So I had my own views on it. And when I realized how collaborative he was on set, I pitched my ideas, and, he took them on board, and they worked out really well. So, finding a director like that is a bit of a dream. But that particular film, he was on a modest budget. He had some good names in there, brilliant script. But my first day on set, I did 8 scenes that day. And I didn't know I was doing 8 scenes that day. It was just indie guerrilla, like get things done, get things moving, so yeah, nothing as deep. And I would love to get into a situation where, a Ken Loach situation where you can really develop the character, but that's when you have big money behind you, and you have the confidence that you're not under that massive time constraint. So I think that's a bit of a luxury.
But I think that's the thing that sort of threw us a little bit of a kind of curveball, because we were kind of going, they were talking about a low budget, probably around about the one that you're talking about, but it was that kind of a Ken Loach film. We were kind of going, how on earth would you do this within that tight constraint? Whereas I know, working on indie films that we've worked on in the past, that you need to give enough guidelines, otherwise things can go belly up. And there was a project, now this is about 20 years ago, so that 4 projects that we made, we had 3 scripts were fairly well defined. The 4th one wasn't quite there. And we kept to a nice tight sort of schedule, but the 4th one just blew it and eventually got evicted from where the location was because everybody was so cheap. And they actually upset everybody and probably caused more damage than they did good, just because they didn't have a handle on what they wanted. A bit like the guy you were talking about there with the filters. You know, it's that you've got to build confidence with the people that you're working with to make sure that they understand. Now, I do like the idea. I don't, as I said, I'm not an actor, but I work with psychology quite a lot, because I like getting into the way that people play off one another. And in one of the courses we just did, I had to, I was being counseled, but I played different characters. And so you're getting inside the head. Is that one of the ways that you would work with your projects or any of the other projects?
Yeah, I mean, as regards, you know, are you kind of more talking about like the method?
Yeah, the method.
Things,
yeah, the method of acting.
I'm stopping you. I'm bored. I want the madness of acting. Forget the methods. I want to go full mad on, which is the improv, the unexpected.
Let's just get, because this is part of that. It's part of that as well, because you're getting into the psychology of why. Actually, this is a prime example, because we've got a triad going on here where Garvin's
actually,
I'm stuck about
the little boy. Ago. You've got to talk about a bit of film there. I went to sleep for a minute. I mean, no, I was actually.
Yeah, well, he's going to go and start talking about finance again. We need a bit of filmmaking in this.
I'm still.
This is a conflict that's going on here.
George,
this is really good stuff. Let's keep going. We'll see if we can get.
No, I want to go gorilla. I'm back to Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
you got to go full gorilla marketing. The thing is, you're going to get them made. You got to be on Planet of the Apes. There's a bunch of monkeys around you. You got to get them to do the shit and stop throwing the shit at each other. Like, so you got to get something meaningful out of it, and they go on the war path and get the big damn thing made. So you got to go full Planet of the Apes, or you've got a big budget. I reckon you're going to look like a gorilla shortly, because there's a tough market out there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And just on the method acting side, it's not for me. I did it in London. I personally don't need to stay in that character. Character development is a different thing, but that whole, method being in there, I can switch it on and switch it off. That's the way I act. And, I've come across a few actors and they have to go through the method thing, and that's their process, and that's fine. You have to respect that. But again, just for the likes of Dublin Crust, I want that spontaneity. I wanted to have that punk feel. And the reason, I cast Eddie, the singer, and Andy, the guitar player, and they've done bits of acting, but they're not actors. When I wrote that script, I wrote it with them in mind. And I know exactly how their personalities are, how they're going to play it. And they 100% delivered what I expected.
I love it. This is another conversation we have with someone else. You go, you get to turn up and play yourself. How great is that?
Yeah,
exactly. You go, here's a guitar, start singing some shit. They're the lines now. Don't worry about them. We're just going to press record over the corner.
We keep going back to the idea that acting is actually about action. It's about the actions you take for getting from A to B. And as long as you can actually navigate the processes and get around the conflicts that are going on, that's really all you need to do, which is more likely be yourself, because you're just trying to get from A to B, and we're just throwing a few obstacles in the way to block you.
Definitely. I mean, yeah. And that's the whole, even when I was in Bow Street, it's beating the actor out of you. You know yourself if you're watching someone and you can see somebody act.
Oh, yeah.
The hardest thing is to be yourself on screen. It's the hardest thing to do, and if you can capture that, people are going to relate that to you way more than somebody trying to be an actor.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know this sounds daft. I have a granddaughter who's just over a year old.
That does sound daft, George. You're right. I don't know how that happens.
But hang on a second. But watching them figure out how to solve problems is actually a fascinating way of watching things. And I think that's what you need to see in a film. You need to believe that the person is actually trying to solve the problem that they've suddenly encountered, not that they're trying to act a part, because as you say, then they become the wooden tops.
That's it, because as a kid, you're conditioned for rules, when you're a little kid, there are no rules. You go into a room, you pick up what you want to pick up, you put it down. Again, it's another, Jerry from Bow Street, it's his philosophy, act like a child. And if you can break down the boundaries and just do what feels natural and not have the fear of judgment on you, if you can capture that on screen. I love Andrew Garfield when he was working with David Fincher on The Social Network. It was on the 42nd take of an argument scene, and it was the end of the day, and Andrew Garfield said he was exhausted, and he went from, being excited about the scene to being tired to being frustrated. And then he said by the 43rd take, he was just so pissed off. He was like, no, go for another one. And he started feeling inadequate as an actor, and he was getting wound up. And in that scene, he just kicked over the table. It wasn't written. He just kicked it in pure frustration. And then Fincher was like, we got it, moving on. So he just waiting.
I'm rolling back because I'm not going away with, if you brought the number 42 into the damn game, that's the meaning of life. That's 42. The answer to the ultimate question. Therefore, it was at 42, life kicked in. That's it. I like the fundamental interconnectedness of all things and how Douglas Adams suddenly appeared in the middle of this. But no, I'm back to the monkeys. That way. You're going gorilla. Are you a gorilla? Are you an orangutan? Are you a chimpanzee?
Well, you pay peanuts and you get monkeys, so it depends on my budget,
No, I thought that was elephants.
No. That's it.
No, actually, there's a nice lead in, because if we're 52 Jokers Wild, the show is in the room. The implied word is the elephant. The elephant in the room. You're bringing in an elephant into the room. What's your elephant? What color is your elephant? What's your elephant that's in the room?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, I suppose my whole thing is tenacity, and just always kind of feeling like coming from the outside, whether that's true or not. And I always feel like I have a point to prove. And I love the people who have said no to this project. I fucking love it. Because that's me going, you said, wait till you see. You're
a told you so personality.
Yeah, that's it.
I definitely am, And I mean, I was told in an acting college that some people shouldn't write their own scripts. That was a note that was given. And again,
that's
when
a red flag to you, is it?
It's really, I was like, so you take these elements and you just go, okay, yeah, I am that kind of person where it's like, right, I'll show you. So tenacity, I suppose, will be my thing. And when you have such like a clear vision of it, and it's very hard, I find it very hard actually to verbalize my vision. Sometimes,
Jesus, we'd be in trouble if you had to verbalize the pecker. You didn't just kiss the Barney Stone, you made love to the damn thing like me. You're going, you're not shy of a few words. You're not lost for the lingo.
No, yeah, but like, I don't know. I'm very visual, and I know exactly, I'm very confident in exactly how the script and how it's going to play out. Yeah. At the same time, being open to suggestions and ideas. I'm not a dictatorship on it. But yeah, sometimes I do find it hard to verbalize it, and I feel like I need to go and show people, and that's why, like I said, people will talk about things, and I'm just like, no, life's too short. Get out there and
show and tell. Show and tell.
Show and tell.
I like that.
I think it's absolutely fabulous.
And do even better. Actually, the weird thing is the box. We keep on talking about it. I don't know where this bloody box is. And if it's a cardboard box or it's a made in IKEA, well, we're outside of the box. We're so far outside that box. But
I've had enough of the IKEA boxes. I've been pulling stuff out of them all week, for goodness sake, and anything else that keeps coming from Amazon.
Actually, one of our earlier shows before we moved into the film realm, Laurie was the girl in question we were chatting to, and a little story came up in that one, and it's like, turns out I'm the barman at the Last Chance Saloon, and you got one more chance before you go. You can ask for a cocktail. This is the cocktail of life. You can mix it. This is your last chance to do something meaningful for you on the planet. One more before you go.
Quantum Leap.
What are you doing?
I mean, like, honestly, and just not because I'm in this at the moment, but this film, like, it is like, as you said at the start of this, it is my unofficial biography. It's been my passion since I was a kid. I've been drumming since I was 4. I've been in bands since I was like 11. So to have this out in the world and get this done, like, I'm super proud of it, of the story. And it's something that I've been holding off for a feature because this is my story that I want to tell. So yeah, 100%. This is like, if this was my last chance of making something, and even if I got to just make this film the way I wanted to make it, and I never made another thing again, I know that I'm going to be super proud just to get this film out there. So yeah, that at the moment, that's as far as
you're on the life path. You're full way down that bloody yellow brick road. You're nearly at Oz, by the sounds of it. You're about to pull back the curtain, and it turns out you had it all the time. It's you. It was just the great thing about it. It's you're not trying to prove it to someone else. You're trying to prove it to yourself.
Yeah, that's it. And and I always look at what kind of films do I want to see. Would I go to the cinema to see this? Is this something that interests me?
There you go.
And, that can be quite egotistical. Of course, it's my film. People are going to see this. But you do have to think, well, is it going to be up there with The Commitments and The Full Monty and Trainspotting? Is it going to be, to that level? And that's something that I'm striving and pushing for, and quietly confident that we will get there.
No, you won't get there. You'll pass it by. You'll be further along the track.
There's a lot of people that are artists that when they do produce stuff, they get so self-conscious of what they've done that they end up rejecting half the stuff they spend a lifetime doing. Because Garvin's in the past talked about his sister that sort of burnt stuff that she's produced, and he's kind of going, but that was evidence of your body of work, And I think what's really good is you're talking in a way, you're conscious of that there is an audience, and you want to make sure that they get the best possible product that you can actually sell for them. And that's a good thing. And
which is you, strangely enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like to think so. But I mean, just for me personally, just on the film side of things, there is absolutely nothing worse than spending an hour and a half of your life watching a film when you have absolutely no investment into the characters. So this script and this story does not work by the end, because there is, a twist and there is a revelation and stuff that happens that's building up. And there's a lot of stuff that's subconsciously planted along the way in films, which I love. If you go back and watch a film a second time, you're like, oh, that's why that's there.
Yeah.
That's what,
Yeah.
And if by the end of that, if you're not totally invested, and even people who have read the script, when they get to that part, I've had people crying, I've had people, and that's the kind of emotion that you need to get.
John terrible. I'm there going, they're crying, going, I just wasted an hour and a half of my bloody life.
No, but
this shite.
The ending is so crucial, though, because I remember watching lots of Channel 4 films in the 80s, and you're kind of going, this is probably the most brilliant movie I've ever watched. And you get to the end, you went, no, it's not, because the ending fell down. And that's why you've got to make sure that ending is right, because when they do leave, you want them to think, as you said, that they have spent the last 1.5 hours enjoying something they've invested in. Because if you do something that's really well crafted up to the very end, and you let the ball drop at the end, then you have wasted those people's time. You've got the ending is so crucial, which is why it's best to work on the ending first and then work backwards.
Yeah,
I got a funny vision of Trainspotting 2 happening here in some way or form.
It's already done. So it's Trainspotting 3, you'll be moving on to.
It's Trainspotting 3.
Yeah.
Is this up in Parnell Street or Connolly Station now? Because, I mean, do you want to get us off those trains these days and go electric? So actually, there you go. Is this a green, sustainable film you're about to do? Are you going to tune in to sustainability?
No.
I think you are. You're recycling clothes from the 70s from the charity shop. The equipment is ancient. It's out there. You're recycling. Here we go again. The actors don't have any costumes. They bring their own clothes and do their own makeup and hair. No, they actually already look like that. That's brilliant. So I think you're actually nearly green before you've even started.
Well, that's probably the ethos of the movie, is because of what it's portraying, is showing the downside of why we've got to where we are. As long as you get them to do an electric e-scooter rather than a bus or a car to the scene, or no, that won't work. It's got to be the old-fashioned stuff.
Well, we are actually very environmentally aware and stuff. And here's a question actually that's kind of I can't.
This one's for you, George.
I tried to actually find some research, and I couldn't actually find anything. And it depends on your standpoint, but my ethical standpoint and my wife's is we are both vegetarian, and it's for the animal reason of it. So what would you think about, now the teaser trailer we made the catering, it was vegetarian, because it just goes against my ethos that I'm vegetarian and I'm going to buy a shitload of meat for actors. And I understand that that's from their point. So how would you feel about that decision?
Get the quark burgers. They're brilliant.
Oh, yeah,
I'm actually...
And the sausages as well, yeah. I think, definitely.
I have two. I have a family of where I said, I'm an enforced vegetarian on the basis of if I didn't cook that day or if I didn't shop for it, it ain't on the menu. So my wife will only cook one dinner for the kids and me, and they're vegetarian, I'm not. Therefore, if I go out, and it's only ever steak and chips because I know what I'm going to get. And it's not... Now, admittedly, I'm actually at the being reminded of the restaurant at the end of the universe where the cow walks up to me and goes, which part of me do you want? Yeah. It's okay. I've grown myself. I'm bought in. I want that cow. I want that cow to come up and talk to me and go, it's okay. I'm fine with this. Do you want me rump or do you want something else?
I actually do think if people started to get into what the processes are that are involved in the manufacturing of food, they would certainly probably wouldn't even want to eat half the stuff they're doing.
That's my understanding. But if I see the process, I would be a vegetarian.
Yeah, I just couldn't think that disassociation anymore. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing, because obviously you don't want your fucking cast and crew to be behind the scenes going, what the fuck they're making us vegetarian. But it just, like, you know what I mean? Like, it would go against my whole philosophy and ethos that I'd be pumping money into an industry that I don't want to put money into. But
how far does that go down the line in terms of wearing leather shoes then?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, you're getting into veganism there,
Yeah.
So that's...
Well, you're stopping that. So then you start going, I'm stopping at vegetarianism, not veganism. There could be a bunch of vegans on the set going, well, I don't want to be here unless you take your shoes off. Then you start going, well, actually, I'm a full-fledged, okay, I eat a steak once a bloody year. I'm not out there, taking a bite out of a cow's arse every 15 minutes. But it's a treat. But at the same time, it's not good for me. I know that. I've seen an awful lot of programs. The planet is all about cow farts, and that's the sort of news I pick up on. We're going to save the world by stopping cows farting. I mean, is that the journey we're on?
Yeah, well, I mean, methane gas, it is a real thing, but. It's just an interesting question, and it's kind of one that I it's weird. I googled it, and normally you'd get all these answers. There's nothing out there about a movie set going full vegetarian, So
is that the marketing ploy?
Interesting. Yeah, that could be the marketing ploy.
That might raise the finance. If your first in wins, you make a proof of concept, and the whole point is go a little bit more and further and package it and wrap it as that. To get that support, because your meeting later on this afternoon. Get those guys to sponsor.
Yeah,
actually, there you go. Green film. You were talking about green film because green film was reduce the carbon emissions. Carbon emissions was move it to vegetarian. You've just cut the carbon emissions of the film.
I like that,
and that's the way that is definitely the way to sell it on throughout the whole thing, because then if you can meet those requirements, then you're
no, he's throwing it back in again. I want a steak, two chips.
No pun intended. But because we have the Red Door charity behind us because there is a drug element in the movie, and they're a drug rehabilitation center, so they've come on board. As regards, they're putting on. We're putting on a joint fundraiser night actually. So Joe Rooney's doing stand-up comedy night, and so half the proceeds go to them, half the proceeds go to us, So, and then there's also, a cancer element in it. So we've been in talks with those. But so like what you're saying there about the, vegetarian, that's the business brain. And that's what I like, having these conversations. So yeah, thanks for that.
Absolutely.
No, I'll take 10% now. That's my equity stake now.
True fucking businessman.
Well, look, folks, we've actually, would you believe it, gone over an hour here with our conversation, which has been very enlightening. And it's really, really good. I love the fact that we do get to those points where we start asking questions that help us develop and move things forward. And that's the whole point of getting a chance to meet all these interesting people. Based on the counseling stuff, sometimes the silence that I give is also useful because I can see people's reactions, psychoanalyzing them as they go along. But I think it's lovely. I think, Baz, the story that you're telling, I'm looking forward to going to the cinema to watch it in Dundalk or in Newry, because I've got an idea from what you've been saying of where it may go. And I'm interested in that sort of concept of where you're talking about. So I think that'd be quite good. And I do like the idea that you're talking about how can you make it green and how can you use some of your own philosophies to do that actually can impart ideas to some of your cast and crew to understand maybe what's going on. The other thing I also liked about the conversation earlier on is don't stereotype me. That's something I think is really important. You've got to get to know people and just don't sort of think don't let all your prejudices get the better of you, but just because you see somebody in a certain sort of way. And I think that's also going to be part of the storyline that you're coming across with the characters in there. So I think it's lovely to hear that. We will, have your say the last word. Tell us what your ideas are.
Yeah, just on that point, I find it very hard to get past the barrier of my image and look, and that's what I liked about doing just this podcast here, was there was none of that. It was just straight into business. And normally, honestly, it takes 20 minutes to get to my personality, whereas with you guys it was straight in. And I do always feel like I have to prove myself in some shape or form, that I'm not going to rob them or murder them, when you meet somebody. And even on the acting side of it, casting directors can't get past my headshot. It's only when I get into a room or I get to have a conversation, and it's always the reaction of, "Oh Jesus, we thought you were going to be," they just have this predetermined, and that's, as humans we judge aesthetically. I understand that, but having these conversations, I'm getting a conversation with Screen Ireland. When I get face to face with them and they find out that you can actually hold a conversation, it breaks down those prejudgmental, stereotypes that they may have. So, and that could be another angle for sponsorship, because there's very much that coming out of the idea you're talking about within your story. So it's looking for someone that might be some kind of charity organization that might feel that there's a great way to sponsor, to promote that aspect of the diversity of what you're talking about, which is really what you need to be talking to, I think, to Screen Island. So we better let I'll hire you guys.
I'm just thinking now, it's not what you're seeing is what you're going to get. It's actually, me and poor Baz are two delicate flowers on the inside, very emotional and need to be loved and cuddled, hence the wives and the bosses. So that's actually Garvin. Garvin is using transference now. Garvin needs all those things. I just need my hair back. I'll be very happy if I get the comb over. That's it.
I saw that marathon ad. Yeah, you had full head of hair.
There, I had to cut it off after that. It's all nugget and nuts. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us this week, and we hope you join us again next week. And it's been a wonderful conversation we've had with Baz Black. Thanks very much, Baz, for coming and joining us.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications.